Brown says, get that India, big boy.
Call an ambulance! Maybe call a priest! Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Campbell Killer!
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Tip Sheet Podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. And not joining me live for this recording, but with me yesterday at Parramatta Leagues Club was my good mate, Sixties. We were in the Bistro for the post-game function when the Parramatta Eels fell dramatically to the West Tigers by a single point, care of that Aiden Caesar field goal, 17-16. Joining us to talk about his career as well as the game itself is one of our favourites, the Guru, Eric Grothe Senior, a fantastic guest. Hopefully you enjoy our chat with him. So without further ado, I'll pass on to our recording from yesterday's show. Thank you, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've just been joined by an Eels legend. He's player number 376, the 1978 Eels Rookie of the Year, 152 first grade games, 4 premierships, 78 tries, 9 origin matches, 8 tests, 15 tries and 1 goal in the 1982 Kangaroo Tour. Everyone, please make Eric Grothe Senior welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Eric, I've got to go straight into that last stat that I just said, which was, and it jumps out at me, 1 goal in that 1982.
Mate, it was a good goal too.
Yeah, well, I have to ask about it because it's obviously, it was a hidden talent that you had.
Well, it was in France and it was snowing and hailing and it was right from the sideline and I kicked it straight between the posts, mate. It was a beautiful shot. No, only joking. It was right in front. We were playing a team called Rowan and they were a local team. We were winning 65-0 and the captain said, Max Krillich said, if you score, you kick your own goal. So I scored. So it just made it over the black dot.
Toe poking, obviously.
Toe poking, yeah.
It's the only way to kick back then.
Absolutely.
Eric, most people, or a lot of people at least, think that your legend began in 1981, but actually your first grade debut was a couple of years before that in 1979. These days, a lot of fanfare is made around an NRL debut. We saw against Manly, Blaze Talangi making his debut in the big fan section there of his family and friends. What was your recollection of the moments that led into your debut in 1979?
I remember Terry Fernley was the first grade coach, and he came up to me at training on the Tuesday and said, do you want to play first grade? Are you ready? And I said no. When he said it, I shit myself a bit. And I said, no, I don't think I'm ready. And he said, yeah, you'll be right. So I went and trained. I think we played, I don't know. I thought my first grade game was against Cronulla. A trial match. That's what I remember. But yeah.
I got the feeling Cronulla was your 3rd game.
That's citation required moment here.
At Endeavour Field, because I was there at that one, and I think there might have been Kurt Sorensen might have run you down, or one of the Sorensens when you were running down the sideline. But
yes,
that's
okay.
I'm getting old now, so my memory's not.
Well, it's better than mine. Mate. Sorry.
That's all good. Now, one of the favourites on our podcast and a regular of our post-game shows, also one of your teammates, Steve Ella, made his first grade debut in what we believe was the same game, regardless of whether it was Cronulla or not. What was it like to share a journey from such a young age through all the premierships, all the representative football with Steve?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Steve was an amazing player, and to come through with him, we played at Eastmount Pritchard. We won 5 or 6 premierships in a row there, and then we got Ron Fernley, Terry Fernley's brother, came over after one of the grand finals and said, can you guys sit on the bench for 23s? So they'd made the semis in that particular year, and I think it was 77. So we sat on the bench. There was a few injuries, and we got on pretty early, and and yeah, things just happened from that. But coming through with Zip, Steve Ella was amazing. He was such a great player and played well above his weight. And yeah, it's an absolute honour to be through that with him.
Well, just listening to you talk about that, I wanted to ask your opinion on staging lower grade games before first grade, because sometimes nowadays it's an NRL standalone, or it might just be the New South Wales Cup on before first grade. Supporters don't get to see some of the younger players coming through like they did in the old days. And of course, back then, without it being modern stadiums, if you didn't get to the ground early, you didn't get a decent seat. So you could be playing under 23s in front of a near full house. I would have thought that was great preparation for younger players, playing in front of a big crowd, being part of an event like that.
100%. The fans today are missing out big time, I reckon, for what you're saying, is that you see the players coming through and you're a part of it. The fans are a part of it. They see them growing and they see them sitting on the bench for reserve grade, sitting on the bench for first grade, and they see that growth, that you know, as a footballer, and it becomes more of a family thing. I think the fans today are missing out on all that. That was pretty special when that was happening.
Now, I just want to go back, because back in 2016 we visited your house and we did an interview at your place, and I mentioned to you that one of my most vivid recollections was a reserve grade game. It was a tackle you made on a runaway Ron Coote to stop him from scoring a try. You hit him probably in the middle of the back, dropped him down, and I said to you, that's one of my great memories, and that's why I talk about lower grade games and enjoying watching lower grade games. But it really surprised me that you also had a vivid recollection of that, but it was for a different reason that you had a memory of that day.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had a big night on the drink, actually, and I didn't, because I knew I wasn't, the idea was that I wasn't playing the next day, but I got a message the morning, I think it was about 4 or 5 o'clock, I went to bed, and I was full of it, and I got a call at 9 o'clock saying, oh, can you sit on the bench? And it wasn't guaranteed that I was playing anyway, and I went, oh, well, okay. And I sat on the bench, and there were some injuries, and I ended up going on. And yeah, it's funny because I didn't have a build-up towards the game in any way, shape or form. There was no nervousness or anything like that, and it just all seemed to unfold.
4 Eels premierships. Beyond yourself, only 7 other Eels were part of all 4 grand final victories. The Crow, Mick Cronin, Steve Ella, who I spoke about, Brett Kenny, Peter Sterling, Ray Price, and Paul Taylor. It's an elite group of players to be part of. You are a very modest bunch. How do you rate yourselves in the pantheon of football core groups of players all time, I suppose?
It's a bit hard to sort of answer that I mean, I'm very proud to be a part of all that. There's no doubt. And there was a lot of special stuff and natural players that could just do things. Brett Kenny and Steve Ella and look, I'm very proud and it was very special. And for me, there's not going to be anything like that, obviously. But I mean, players playing today are going to have their stories and what they do and how they grew up and all the rest of it, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's best for someone outside to sort of maybe answer that question, I think.
Eric, there's got to be an Eels player under consideration to be an immortal, because we've had players selected from different eras, but that particular Parramatta team was a generational team. 4 titles in those 6 years. And John just read through that list of players. Surely there's at least one person in that list that should be an immortal.
Well, I reckon there's a few. There's a few there.
Yeah.
There's Brett Kenny, Ray Price and Peter Sterling. They were so special at their craft, you know. But the most naturally gifted was Brett Kenny. He could just I mean, he was just magical. So I think, yeah, at least one of those guys should be the next Immortal, no doubt.
There's always a lot of debate about how players from older generations would go in the modern game, but I think it's fair to say, 60s, that each and every one of those 8 players would have held their own and more in the modern NRL.
Yeah. Now, we just mentioned the 4 titles. Is there one of those that's a favourite, Eric?
Well, it'd have to be the first one because we hadn't won one, and the area was really looking to have one. And yeah, that was amazing to come back to the club here and to see a sea of people after coming back from the Sydney Cricket Ground. Yeah, that was magical. That will always stay in my head. And it was just amazing. It was just like a rock concert, you know. And everyone was just crazy. And to say that the second and third one were pretty special too, but that one will always sit there. Yeah.
Yeah. As someone that was at the club that night, I was in that sea of people. I'd actually just finished working at the club for 2 years, just maybe a couple of weeks beforehand, and I got the phone call from Gary McCullough, who used to be the boss.
Gary, yeah.
And he asked me, "Can you come in and work on Grand Final Day?" I said, "No, Gary, I don't work at the club anymore." And he said, "I know, but can you come in? We need people." And I said, "I'll be at the game." And he said, "Well, come in after the game." I said, "I'm having a few drinks, Gary." He said, "I don't care, come in." I said, "I don't think you understand what a few drinks will mean for me, especially if we win." Yeah. And he goes, "Come in." I said, "I'll be there, but I won't be wearing my black and whites." So, yeah, it was quite a night that night. I can only imagine what it was like for all of you, except maybe the bad side of it was some of you lost some of your gear in the locker room in the grandstand of Cumberland Oval.
Yeah, someone had left some gear behind and they lost it because of the fire, obviously, yeah. But no, I didn't.
Yeah, so 81 being the favourite grand final victory, that's a good answer. Let's continue with the theme of favourites. How about your favourite try? Obviously, the one as a fan that comes to mind immediately was that Herculean effort against Canterbury at SCG, the old cricket ground. Does that rate at the top, or is there something else that competes with it in your mind?
Well, yeah, I'm very proud of that. But there was one against St George in the '84 final. It was a tight game. We won 8-7, I think it was. But they were in front most of the game, and it was probably one of the most toughest games of football that I played in. And they were leading most of the way, and we got a couple of penalties, and we ended up close to their line, and Sterlo tapped it. It went out and went to Brett, and Brett sort of he sucked a few people in by just running around a bit, and then he threw it over the top of Steve Rogers, who was playing for St George at that stage, and I just had a beeline to the try line, and I just and he tried to get me, but he got me around the legs, but I just momentum took me over, and for me that was our 4th grand final in a row, and that just meant a lot to me to be part of that. All the work was done for me. All I had to do was run 20 metres and put it down.
Eric, you mentioned about all the work that was done for you. That's interesting because with that try against the Bulldogs, Steve Ellis told us a number of times he threw that pass to you.
Yeah, it was a really depth pass too, you know. He was getting swung around by Chris Mortimer, and he ran out of room, and I sort of moved out of the way, and he just sort of swung it around and ended up in my guts. So there was a bit of a gap to go in and out a little bit, but it was all against the grain because most of the players were coming in to hit zip, and all of a sudden it went the opposite way, and it just sort of opened up.
Eric, your running style, the way you brushed off defenders by getting low, winning the point of contact at the bump and fending, was that an intuitive, natural approach to football, or was that coached?
No, it was all natural, and I didn't really realise what I was doing until when I retired and someone had told me about it. A few people had told me about it when I was playing, but yeah, when I saw the videos, and I used to think, it was just a natural thing to sort of get away from someone or to move someone away or just to roll up in a ball. Because
when I was growing up playing rugby union, we were taught the low man wins, but you really took that to the next level.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and it just seemed to work.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a timing thing too, I guess, and you hit them and roll yourself into a bit of a ball. It makes it hard to shift that.
And
How fast were you, Eric? Because it's often said that you always ran as fast as you needed to. Did you always have a couple of gears up your sleeve if you needed to? I mean, or did we always see you at top speed?
No, that was top speed. I was always trying to get to my fastest or whatever. But some days it would feel like I was cruising a bit, and the other days it'd feel like I was sort of going up and down in one spot, depending how you're feeling. Yeah.
I was thinking on that running style. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but think about how you were the low man that won contact that way. The eel that reminds me the most of you in that regard is Will Penasini. He often uses his body weight low into contact.
And he's built really low to the ground, isn't he? So he's got that centre of gravity, but he does that really well.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't recall you celebrating tries, Eric. I think when you scored, it was like get up, head back.
Back to business.
Yeah, all about the business.
No, it had nothing to do with the business. I look at that sometimes when I see replays and stuff, and I think, get happy, will you? Cuddle somebody. Somebody gave you a good pass to score, and go over and go, yay, or something. And I see the guys today, and everyone, celebrates, and I think I was just.
Are you trying to tell
sad.
us you're a sourpuss or something?
It looks like I'm a sourpuss. When I scored my first try for Australia over in England, the Kangaroo tour, I did the same thing. Just walked back, and then everyone's coming over going, and I go, thank you. Hopeless.
And the other thing too, back in the day, because of your size, you were regarded as part of like an evolution of wingers. A bigger size, the pace is still there, but that capacity to run over the top of an opposition player. Terry Fahey was maybe just in front of you when you started. I think he'd already come into first grade, but you were part of that evolution of players. What weight did you play at for most of your career?
I was around 97, 96, around that. I spent some time in England, and I came back, I was 104 kilo. Fish and chips over there and all the rest of it. But generally on average about around 97, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting comparison because Sean Russell isn't regarded as a big winger. I mean, he's tall, but he's now weighing in at around 99 kilos.
Wow, okay, doesn't look like...
He started the pre-season at 92, and we were watching the pre-season and thought, you're looking a bit bigger, Sean. So we asked him what he's at, and he said, around 90, 99, 99 and a half.
What's Sivo? What's he weigh?
He's he's listed as 105, wow. But I mean, they still list Sean Russell as 90. Yeah. So that'll, I don't ever take that.
There's some loose measurements out there with the player weights.
Yeah, I always think the best answers we get from the players rather than, what's on profiles.
Wingers, of course, have been the running butt of jokes in the history of the game. I'm not sure if anyone had the cojones to say it to you, but why do wingers score so many tries? Because they're marked by other wingers. Exactly. What do you call it? The blokes that hang around footballers? Wingers.
Wingers, yeah.
Yep. But the role of the modern winger and the workload of the modern winger, it's really transformed. Even going back 10 years or so, they're now like big-time workhorses. The Penrith back three in particular, they're fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
How do you see the modern winger and its transformation?
I think it's been amazing. From when I played until when my son played, Eric Jr., the game had changed so much, and he was doing 20 to 25 hit-ups a game. Yeah. And he was taking the tough hit-ups from off your line.
The
and
real
stuff
dirty
like
ones,
that.
exactly, yep.
And he'd just get in there and do it. His work rate was 50 times mine. In my day, he didn't have to really... I'm sure they wanted me to do a little bit more work there, but they didn't really... Jack didn't pull me aside and say, take those tough runs. And I should have done more of that. But, I mean, just the corner post thing and the amazing tries that you see they're just so athletic and unbelievable. Really good.
Now, just before we get into today's game, music's always been a big part of your life. Mm-hmm. You've got Eric Grothe and the Gurus, and for anyone that's interested in going and basically having a night out where it's like a party, just a party, I recommend going and seeing your band. Great set list, a lot of fun. But Was music something that you used back in the day as sort of a, I don't know, like a mental release, something to help you unwind and relax? Did it play that sort of role for you?
No, it didn't. But I never used it. I should have used it a bit more for that purpose. But no, at home when I had my headphones on or whatever, it'd send me away somewhere, especially with the type of music that I was listening to. But no, I never really incorporated it, and I should have. Towards the end of my career, I was starting to do that when you're trying to look for things as you get older. I'd put the Walkman on or whatever, you'd listen to some songs, but no, I should have done more of that. Yeah.
And on that note, you got any upcoming gigs you can tell us about if we want to make some space on the calendar?
Yeah, next weekend we've got Raymond Terrace, which is up Newcastle.
Nice spot.
Oh, we have a lot of listeners to the podcast.
We actually do have a
from Central Coast
healthy
to
Central
Newcastle.
Coast representation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, I can't remember the name of the pub, but Raymond Terrace next Saturday. It's always a good gig, always a great crowd to get there, and yeah, so come along to that one.
Now, before we let you go, because we've had a wonderful chat for you, we'll get a quick take on today's result. West Tigers sneaking home against Parramatta 17-16 on the back of that Aiden Caesar field goal. Sixties and I were having a quick chat about it before you got here, but I think it's fair to say Parramatta had plenty of opportunities to win this one.
Yeah, what was the penalty count? We got a lot of penalties.
Let me have a gander
for us. Yeah, we
did take the option a couple of times to take the tap when we were 2 points behind.
Yeah,
we were debating that in the stand, like in the first half, because it was 6-4, and we said, look, we don't score from this, they're going to be buoyed by the fact they've held us out for multiple repeat sets. We don't know how it would have extrapolated if we had taken the 2 points there, because everything changes from that point on, different kick-off, all that sort of stuff. Yep. But would you have taken the 2 points at that stage?
Yeah, they probably felt they were going to get over the top of them. I mean, it was pretty stiff defence by both teams, but they probably felt at that time that they were getting the ascendancy a little bit, and they thought maybe we'll keep going with it. But I mean, West Tigers have improved out of sight, but we were a little bit all over the place in our attack a little bit because of the Mitchell Moses thing, and it just looked a little bit different. But mate, full marks of West Tigers. They busted their gut.
I suppose that brings us to an interesting reflection for you. In the games where you're missing Peter Sterling in the halves, how did the team change their approach mentally, whether he was injured or suspended? How did you change your approach to compensate for the loss of your halfback, the guy that steers the team around? Yeah,
that was always done by the coaching staff. But I know you think about, Sterling's not playing. You think, oh, we're not going to have this, we're not going to have that. But we had a remarkable player, Paul Taylor, who was in that bunch, and we didn't lose much there. We lost a little bit in far as the rudder, how he used to take us around the park. Sterlo was very special in that part. But yeah, that's just a fight that you have in your own little head, knowing that someone's not playing. Brett Kenny's not playing. You're not going to have that edge that he gives,
It felt like today's 60s that we were trying to overcompensate at times for the loss of Mitch by trying to change the point of attack, force offloads when it weren't there. And were we guilty of overplaying?
I thought we were overplaying it a little bit, and maybe that accounts for that clunkiness, because there was certainly no rhythm in attack as soon as we got into the red zone. Like when we were just going through the basic shapes to march from our 20 down to their 20, that was no problem for us. It was the meters were coming, but as soon as we were down there, we couldn't ask any questions really.
Yeah, and West went through that too. Tigers had about 6 or 7 sets against them and couldn't score one particular. They ended up scoring at the end of that, but they had to score obviously. But yeah, it's the ascendancy. You just don't know when that's coming, and so the game was decided on penalties today. There was a lot of penalties.
Yeah, it was.
And I could tell sort of halfway through the second half that it was always going to be decided on some sort of mistake or a penalty or something like that.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, Eric. Just couple of comments. Are we going to be better for that first run without Mitch Moses? Do you see us using this game as a learning experience and perform better against the Raiders?
Yeah, oh, well, 100%. Yeah, the coaching staff will, try and sort that out. But are there any halfbacks coming through? Do we know?
In the Eels, Ethan Sanders, who played in the New South Wales Cup team, he's been the target of the Canberra Raiders, who are looking to get him because he's off contract from the Eels at the end of this season. So he was the New South Wales under-19s halfback last year. So he's the Eel that's sort of on the rise. And but Brad Arthur made the decision to go with Blaze today because Blaze had a good game the week before, and he also played as 5'8", coming up through junior representative football.
Yeah, right.
Long-term outlook, Mitchell Moses projected to be out for around 8 weeks, obviously now 7 with the one game in hand. What's the break-even for Parramatta in the next 2 months? 4-4 or better?
Say that again, sorry.
If Mitch Moses ends up being out for the next 7 weeks, 8 weeks total, where do you put the break-even for Parramatta on the win-loss total? At 4-4 or more than that?
I'd have to look at the draw, but yeah, I think they'd be happy if they won 60% of those.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah, it would have been good to have started
This
today.
would have been a handy one to put in the pocket, that's for sure.
Home game against the Tigers. Final question, where are the Tigers at?
They look a little bit different. I mean, they smacked the Cowboys last year by 60, and then they got towelled up a couple of weeks later by Cowboys. So they look a little bit different. They look like they've got a little bit more grunt in them. Yeah. So and today was a perfect example of that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps things up. Please thank Eric Grothe Senior for being here tonight.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for being here for the Cumberland Throw. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time after the Cowboys game.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.